Now, moving on to Paul, our second speaker, who either woke up early or hasn't slept yet. Paul joins us from the other side of the world in the USA. You were sharing with us earlier what time it was there, Mountain Time, right? Was it 1 or 2 o'clock, thereabouts?
Yeah, now it's 2:25 a.m. and I feel alive and awake and happy to be here.
Great. I appreciate your sacrificing your precious hours of sleep, Paul. Now let's start you off with a minute or two introduction of Emmersion. Please give our audience a brief background of your organization.
Yeah, immersion in 4 words. Immersion proves language ability. Our mission is to close the global communication gap, and we do that through a fully automated, fully adaptive language assessment that leverages artificial intelligence. We help companies screen for speaking, writing, grammar, communication skills across multiple languages that they may be hiring for. Our CEO, Brigham Tomko, he likes to say that we are a for-profit social venture. We really are mission-driven to improve people's lives by connecting them with life-changing career and education opportunities as they prove their language abilities. And I'm just honored to be a part of this great association.
Thanks for that, Paul. Now it's time for you to tell us how to transform hiring with AI-driven talent screening. So quite an intriguing topic. So please proceed. Take it away, Paul.
Thanks so much. To kick this off, I'm interested in getting your input as you think about this question. You know, as you're hiring for talent, what are the top skills that you're looking for in a candidate who applies to work for your contact center? And if you want to open up your chat and share, your thoughts in response to that question, please feel free. And the chat box should be open if you want to add your thoughts there. Communication, call handling skills. Thanks for those thoughts. Grit, I love it, especially in a world today where we're going through the digital transformation. It's so critical. As you're adding more comments there, we have found in our research just a host of soft skills and hard skills that call centers are looking for in their talent and their hiring. And of course, most interesting to us are comments around communication, writing, foreign language. Indeed even said that communication skills are the #1 skill that they find mentioned in their job postings. So a second question that I have for those who would be willing to participate is if communication skills are so critical in the hiring process, how are you currently testing for communication and language skills in your hiring process? I'd be interested to hear, from attendees what they're doing to test for this. Feel free to add your thoughts in the chat. I'm not seeing many comments come through yet. There we go. Open-ended interview questions, English proficiency tests, mock call assessments. Awesome. All great solutions. We've found as we've worked with clients all over the world that staffing a call center, as each of you know, is so difficult. There's so many challenges involved. As I build a 700-person call center with my last company, I know what the pressure feels like to hire qualified candidates to meet the needs of your customers. And as we consider human-rated solutions when it comes to language and communication proficiency, some of the challenges we see is that the results aren't necessarily immediate. Even if you do a language assessment with some products, it can take 24 to 48 hours to get results back. Bias has become just a bigger and bigger issue in our world today. We're finding that as we try to hire for diverse and inclusive talent, that bias gets in the way. And human-rated solutions aren't as scalable, and they lead to a higher cost per hire. On the other hand, if you can implement an AI solution that accurately tests for language ability, you get incredible benefits in your hiring process. You can get immediate scores and feedback on someone's language ability and their communication skills. You'll get more accurate information on the aspects of their communication and language skills that are deficient or excellent. By putting an AI assessment at the beginning, at the top of funnel of your recruiting process, you can lower your costs because you're not spending as much time with less qualified candidates. And just a host of benefits that we've seen in the processes of our customers. And for me, a big deal is this element of human bias. AI is blind as it tries to assess certain skills. Just as I want to share a couple case studies of customers where we've implemented an AI assessment in their hiring process. Crossover is a recruiting marketplace for a holding company that owns 100 different brands all over the world, and they staff for about 40 different positions in multiple countries. They were receiving about 30,000 applications per month, and they had developed an automated solution to test for personality skills. They tested for language ability second in the process as their second step, and they would send their candidates to an outside company to screen for language. It took several hours to get the results back, and what they found is that sometimes the results weren't as accurate as they could have been. We implemented Emmersion's AI-driven language assessment, and they were able to get immediate results in their hiring process, which cut multiple hours, 45,000 hours per month in their screening process. And they just saw tremendous results, higher CSAT scores, better, just better results overall. They were using speaking test, reading, grammar, vocabulary, and just great results from this case study. When you think about the benefits on the employee experience side and the benefits for the customers, it's a great marriage, and there's synergistic benefits on both sides. You hire employees who are better suited to handle customer conversations, which leads to a more satisfied and confident employee, leads to lower turnover and better opportunities for career progression for your people. And customers get the benefit of increased agent abilities. It's more, as you remove bias, you get better objectivity and improve CSAT scores and peace of mind. Just one more case study. At one of Teleperformance's locations, they rolled out a chat feature. And what they noticed is that CSAT scores, as they implemented chat, just started to plummet, and they weren't exactly sure why. They did an extensive evaluation, and they found that with chat, the agents were exhibiting a lot of grammatical errors, and that this was negatively impacting their CSAT scores. They had a goal of 90% CSAT, and the scores had dropped all the way to 72%, and they didn't know how to raise those numbers back up. So they rolled out a focus group and started to test for an agent's ability to communicate by using our language assessment. Within 30 days of testing for the language, the agent's grammar ability, they improved CSAT from 72 up to 87. And after 60 days, they hit 92%, which was above their goal. And just one more example of many where we've seen just impressive results by transforming the hiring process. If you haven't considered implementing an AI-related solution to screen for language and communication skills, it's a great opportunity to do so, especially as we think about the digital transformation and how this has impacted our hiring and our talent assessment. Feel free to reach out to me for any follow-up questions, and I'll be available later in the presentation to answer questions. Thank you.
Now, now that we've heard from each of our three speakers, it's time to bring them all back for our Q&A panel discussion. And for this round, we will also be joined by Ricky Salvador. Now we'll take a look at the questions that you have typed in. Let me see. I believe this one is for you, Marie. Is VBC, value-based care, already implemented in the Philippines? Can you please share a few successful companies? And I'll just lump it with another question. What are the benefits of shifting to value-based care for companies?
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for that question, Chris, and whoever asked it. So first off, in the Philippines, unfortunately, the full shape and form of value-based care is not yet pieced together. What we have so far is what we call the Chronic Management Disease Program, which is good because it's still part and parcel of the value-based care chain, where you have a chronic management disease program for the likes of heart, diabetes, cancer, and lung-related diseases. So we have those programs in place. However, what we are gunning for in EPI and CareSpan is to do it in its full shape and form. That's why we created a consortium of providers and partners that will allow us, because we already have the tool, we have the program. The tool was actually invented by a doctor based out of New York. It's a very intelligent tool. So on the second part of the question, which is I think very, very important as we plan, we need to be a little bit mavericks. I think in IBPAP, I really, to Ricky and to you, Chris, what I always say is that this Beyond Boundaries has really opened also my eyes on mavericks like us who wanted to share new concepts and ideas that will really work. So on the value-based care program, we are very sure that they will see this trajectory of improvement, which is if you are proactive from the very beginning before it turns chronic, you are able to address the early symptoms. Can you imagine that concept? Addressing the early symptoms with care, with medicines, with calls from providers. Because right now what happens is you go to a medical provider, you get your medicine, you get your checkup, and then they'll tell you, please come and see me after 3 months. So hands off, you're busy. No one calls in between unless it's a family doctor, right? Here, what we're saying is if you are enrolled in a value-based care program, even if I say, I'll see you in 3 months, within that 3 months, there is already interventions that are being provided to ensure that when you come back, all the elements that came into play with that prescription, what you need to do, the exercise, the meals, the change of lifestyle are really taken very seriously. Aside from that, because if the chronic illnesses are, before it becomes chronic, you address it from the get-go. Obviously, for the companies, it will lower the utilization of your medical program. Because right now, especially in the space where I came from for many years in the BPO, a lot of the companies are doing 105, 110% utilization of what you have already paid in premium. And now CFOs and company owners are saying, can we cost control? But instead of saying cost control, because it will be a byproduct of this program, why don't we say value-based care, because it will actually be meaningful in terms of lowering health utilization, improving cost predictability rather, and then you reduce attrition because of this unattended chronic illnesses.
That's especially important, I guess, for our industry, you know, because well, the hours that are worked, especially for the ones who are on graveyard shift, really, that's very, very important to get a handle on everyone's health. Right? Thank you, Marie, for that. All right. Next question would be, I think, for Paul. What are some challenges that companies face once they shift to AI-driven talent screening, Paul?
Yeah, I think the interesting part of that question is what challenges companies face in order to shift to an AI-driven solution. It seems to be all upside, at least in my opinion, once you move there. But the biggest challenge is that companies have always done language and communication assessment human to human. So it's overcoming the bias against AI to be able to jump to a solution like that. What I encourage companies to do is just test it out, start small, you know, implement a few of these assessments in your hiring process and see if you get the results that you're hoping for. And then it's easy to expand, you know, across your entire process. We typically see customers within 2 to 3 months will 4x or 5x the number of assessments that they're using because they've tested it small, seen the benefits, and then they rapidly expand to their entire process.
Right, right. Try it out first, do some baby steps, yeah?
Absolutely.
All right. Another one for you. How does AI screening process happen? Do candidates talk to an AI bot that has the capability to make assessments? Appreciate more details about the assessment scope and what it can measure, like grammar and diction.
Yeah, great question. So we use a process called elicited imitation, EI. So as you take the assessment, you can take it on a mobile phone or through a browser. The assessment will speak a sentence to you, and then you repeat the sentence back. And it's adaptive, so questions adjust to how well you answered or how well you were able to respond to the prompt. And then it takes 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the accuracy of the test taker. And at the end, you receive a report of their language ability compared to a CIFAR score, so that you can benchmark against that standard. Very simple process, easy to use, easy to implement.
Interesting, interesting, Paul.
Yeah.
Let's move. Yeah, Chris, I have a very specific question for Alex.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
From Mike Medrano. No? To Alex, what's the future state plan for SAP Fieldglass, if any?
That one is a very generic question because when you say what's the future state plan, I guess you are talking about the roadmap. So when we say the roadmap of the products within SAP, we are enhancing it. We are also, what we're doing is extending it. So a lot of our applications, whether it's HR, whether it's travel management, whether it's ERP, what we are doing now is having them communicate with each other. So the same thing that's happening for Fieldglass, we are actually extending that. We are also putting in intelligent enterprise to Fieldglass. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
There's a question here for all panelists. What are the factors that can hasten the adoption of AI here in the country, in the Philippines? Who would like to take that on first?
Ladies first. Marie?
Marie?
You know, some thoughts in my head, because it really takes a village to convert something that you're used to into something completely new. But so it's a paradigm shift. But what I always do, if there is a need to kind of be sort of advisory to some of my peers in the industry, it has to be based on facts and data. So is it, and I usually do the cost-benefit analysis model, where what is the cost to do manual and semi-auto versus going full AI? Because that's the only way my stakeholders, or, my board members, or my other key leaders. So to shift gear for expansion, for growth, to shift gear to become faster and better, and perhaps even cheaper along the way, you need to go AI. But for them to understand that model, they must first see some numbers at the end of the day. So there's a lot of paradigm shift, a lot of paper pushing at the end of the day as well.
That's right. That's right. Paul, did you want to say something as well?
Well, I would just echo something that I said earlier. Is I think one of the ways that you adopt AI in an organization is just to try it out on a small scale, similar to other investments that you would make in the business. Before going big, go small, and test it on a focus group or on a small part of your process. Get the results, reapply, reassess, and just continue to learn.
Thank you, Paul. Alex, your knowledge of the Philippines, what do you think?
In terms of AI, I guess is again, it's similar to the rest of what I mentioned in terms of intelligent enterprise. Whether it's AI, machine learning, IoT, it's a business case, right? It's a business case in the sense as what exactly do you want to achieve, and how can AI actually help you, right? I mean, if you look for it, AI may not be the way to go. It may be something else, but at least open up, understand what is your business issues, what is it that you want to solve, what is the goal that you want to have, and then we can be there to provide the guidance, right? To say, okay, AI is the way to go, and this is what you should be doing. Okay, but at least let us understand what is the issues and the challenges and the goals that you want to achieve.
Right, right. I think that kind of dovetails to this other question that, again, is for all the panelists, because some see AI and other emerging technologies as a threat. So what do you think should the industry do in order to harness the benefits of these and similar technologies, and how to make it work to their advantage? Marie, you have a smile. You have an answer for that.
I haven't really drilled down and thought about it, but so to be fair, the question is, how can we all consolidate all these particular tools, right?
Well, how, again, let me read it off. With all these emerging technologies, there are some that consider this a threat. So how do you harness all of that, right? And make it work to the advantage of the company?
I think I'm thinking along the same lines as Paul and Alex in many ways. What we do is we really do a business case, a conversation. We find out where we are at. We should have a diagnostic of where the company is at. Each company would have a different journey, whether everybody is full manual, full semi-auto. I have been in companies where, like I was an ex-Genpact employee where everything is automated. But I also was in a previous life where it's like Frankenstein. It's a meld of semi-processes because we acquired too many companies around the world, so we could not put it together. But finally, at the end of the day, it's, I think what also Paul and Alex said, you can make it work if the end state is very clear. Is it going to be a trajectory of growth in terms of revenue, in terms of client satisfaction, in terms of EBITDA protection? Is it going to remove people so that they do other stuff that works and then you can automate the rest of it? It's really a meaningful exercise that I would be excited to do, and I have done in other companies. But it takes the spirit of what is the end state, what is the goal, and what tools do we have, and how much money is each company willing to spend with everybody.
That's right. That's right. Alex, Paul, would you like to chime in?
Paul, can I just go ahead first?
Please.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the technologies that we have mentioned, AI, IoT, and so on, it is not so much a threat, but it's actually to help increase the productivity. Why I say that is that I just give you an example. A company that we have, a customer that we have in Germany, they're actually a vineyard, right? In terms of the vineyard, what happens is that they are worried about the humidity of the plants that they have, right? If you actually use human beings, it's actually very difficult to go and actually check the humidity, and then of course to say, okay, we need to actually on the sprinkler and so on. So this is where putting in a sensor, right? IoT sensor, and to say that if it falls below a certain humidity, send an alert to the backend system so that we can trigger off the sprinkler, right? So this is what I mean by improving productivity rather than to say that we are actually replacing jobs. It is not meant to do that. It is actually to make it more productive. More productive for the employees, and of course to allow you to do something else, right? Rather than to do all these jobs that may be very tedious. Okay. Yeah, Paul.
I think both of you covered it really well. I don't have anything meaningful to add.
Thank you. Ricky, would you have any question to ask them, or read off from all these other questions that have been typed in?
I think we should read off since there are still more questions coming in.
That's
So
right.
I'll read off one. Okay, this is addressed to Alex. What do you think are necessary to obtain a secure and efficient Omnicommerce?
Again, what exactly is the need in terms of the Omnicommerce? So when we talk about Omnicommerce, it's basically to say that I want information from different channels, whether it's from social media, whether it's from phone, whether it's from text and so on, or WhatsApp, right? So a lot of companies are doing that, and they're saying that, okay, I want to be able to respond, right? So in a way, it's not so much a threat. It's basically for you to have more information, and how do you want to actually make use of this information? And one example again is that in terms of social media, a lot of feedback is put into social media, whether it's good or bad feedback, right? So that's where again the social sentiments. If it's bad, what do you want to do with the bad so-called feedback? And that's where, as a company, you want to take care of your own image. You say that, okay, I want to immediately be able to reply, right? So in terms of Omnicommerce, yes, it's good to have, but again, what is the need for you to have that Omnicommerce channel? Yeah. Ricky?
Thank you, Alex.
Yep.
This one that's addressed to Marie. Do you use any engagement tools, features, and incentives to drive adoption, usage, recognition, and advocacy from the users or the participants?
Not at this time. I wish we are already at that stage where we can, because I'm excited to do it, because I think the technology in HR solutions is very, 9 months ago that we introduced this, is only in its early stage. I would love to be at a state where we can already provide those. Right now, we are promoting products that we feel are going to be very, very strong. It's going to provide a strong play in terms of EBITDA protection, just as an example of this Amber chatbot that I talked about, or a clear-cut paradigm shift that would actually change the trajectory of growth by making sure, employee wellness through the CareSan model. But other than that, we have not been able to provide more. Maybe as we go along in our growth process in ABI, there should be more.
All right. Thank you for that, Marie.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think we can take these questions, the remaining questions for all panelists. So I'll read one. What type of preparation should organizations brace themselves with in adapting to the fast-paced AI technology development in the IT BPM industry worldwide. So yeah, I guess preparation. Yeah, do you have any thoughts? Let's start with who this time? How about asking Alex?
Okay. So in terms of preparation, first of all, the company itself, the customers itself, they need to have their own strategy, right? They need to believe that there is a need for change. And as I mentioned in my presentation, there needs to be also a so-called agreement, right, between the top and the bottom. The employee must always be there and agree with the change, right? If this is there, then yes, we can actually be discussing and say that, okay, I need to improve on intelligent enterprise, AI technology, and so on. I want to adopt this in my company. So in terms of the preparation, basically is that the company from top to bottom need to agree on the strategy. Then yes, we can move forward. Yeah,
makes sense. Thank you, Alex. How about Paul? Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I look at it from a change management perspective. You know, if we look back on the last year, we were hit with a situation that really no one was prepared for.
That's right.
And the companies that seemed to really thrive were those who had hired the type of DNA that was able to adapt and change. They had leadership teams that embraced change and communicated well with their people. So when I think about the changes that are coming through AI and machine learning and IoT, the companies that will win are those who are willing to test out new technologies and learn, and they've instilled in their people kind of a thirst and a desire for change. So I think, you know, the people aspect is super interesting to me. How do you prepare your people to adapt to change quickly? Because it's coming and it will never slow down.
Thank you. But I have a follow-up to that. No? What if your people are not that well versed in technology or the offerings? Do you hire someone, or do you call a consultant? What do your clients usually do?
Is that for me, Ricky?
Yeah, just a follow-up to your comment earlier.
Yeah, I think employee education is critical, you know, and making sure that your people understand the concepts of AI and machine learning and how it applies. We hold a weekly meeting with our people where we talk about changes that are happening in our business and in the industry. We hold a monthly, more in-depth, to make sure that our employees know what's happening. So yeah, communication, ongoing training, and for certain things, bringing in a consultant can be super helpful.
Thank you, Paul. Very good tips.
Can I also add a stab to that particular question?
Sure, you're next in line, Marie. Go ahead.
No, because I believe it's very crucial that this journey is really not, and I guess both Alex and Paul really did not paint a rosy picture, because there's going to be change. But some of the key changes there is, it's going to be like, you have to have an inventory of the skill sets that you have, and an inventory of the skills that you don't have. And now you need to meld what you don't have, and find out which of the talent can you make them unlearn certain things and relearn new things. So this meld, so the men and women in a certain department need to be very emphatic about the vision, about the change, about where the trajectory of that growth will come from, because you can only shape the organization to the specific direction if you have a full inventory. And sometimes a full inventory doesn't come at the tip of the finger. That's where you need a lot of tools, especially for the BPO companies, IT BPO companies, where the size is massive, and the global scale is also huge. So it's a skill set inventory, what you have, what you don't have. You know, are you going to take the programs in-house for these changes to happen? Are you going to front load this before it hits you? Are you going to change the policy? So a lot of these things, and rightfully said by the two other gentlemen, a lot of companies were caught flat-footed during this particular pandemic. But those who survived and thrived are those that actually meaningfully invested in a group of people that can react successfully on a whim on this particular changes, but also those that are successful are also those that actually invested in AI tools, no matter how small scale they may be, right? So yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you, Marie. So really, your 30 years of HR experience coming through. Okay, we have two more questions, no? But we'll just direct them to particular individuals, no? So one question is, in your opinion, has AI evolved to a point wherein we should not be concerned about its accuracy to make proper interpretations, and that its implementation to talent-related solutions appropriate? I see Paul nodding his head. He might have a response to this question. Go ahead, Paul.
I do. And you have to evaluate each AI solution on its own merits. An AI tool is only as good as the data that's informing the model. So as we evaluate tools that we're implementing in our business, there needs to be a corpus of data in the model that leads to accurate solutions. You know, in Emmersion's situation, we've assessed information over 20 to 30 years, hundreds of thousands of assessments that are informing the model. And that's what you need to look for before you start making talent-based decisions on an AI solution.
Thank you, Paul. Well said. And then the last question I'll direct to Alex. No? This is on chatbots. I've seen poorly designed AI chatbots that don't meet objectives. Thus, the question on whether there's confidence that its implementation to current talent solutions can be considered as predominantly credible. Should this be a Marie question or an Alex question, or feel free to answer both of you?
Maybe Marie, I'll let you answer that.
Sure.
Marie.
Yep.
I agree with you. The veracity, the reliability is actually based on multiple tests. And just to give you an example on Amber, the chatbot, you can just imagine how many tests it has undergone, because it has actually humanized the way she actually talks to the employees, the tone, and even she even has a corporate sense. Because if somebody said, for example, the word politics, it will automatically be grabbed as a negative tone as we talk about corporate politics or office politics, right? So even that feature, imagine to humanize it, to have texts that actually bucketize words, and to have this textual awareness sensitivity to determine the tone, obviously takes, I mean, hats off to the men and women behind ML, AI, and all the technology solutions. They paid a lot of price, testing this multiple 1,000 times or more to get to the state, especially with the tools that the two other gentlemen are have likewise discussed today.
Thank you, Marie. There are more questions, but we've run out of time for the Q&A. So we will probably send you these questions and get your response by email, if you don't mind. And then turn it over to Chris, no?